Hello everyone. Nice to see you today. It's good to be back at the Odoo experience this year as well. Presented in front of you last year as well. My name is Lionel. I am the head of services for Australia, and it's a pleasure for me to to conclude this Odoo experience this Friday by showing you what we've been working on with Australia over the past year. So first of all, before I start, I would like you to scan this QR code just to prepare in case you have any question during the presentation, because I'm going to talk about a lot of different things. So don't hesitate to scan it now. I'll give you 2 seconds, and then I'll move forward with my presentation. All right. Before we get going, I would like to spend a little bit of time introducing the Australian office to you guys. Odoo Australia today. So, at the time I made this presentation last year, we were about 15 employees. Now we're 42 people strong, and we've got a bunch of people here supporting me in front. Thank you, Australian team. We grew from 3 to 8 departments, so that was a wild ride in about a year and a half. We are moving to a bigger office soon because it's starting to be a little tiny at the moment, and we implemented a bit more than 150 successful implementations with our Australian, New Zealand, and the ANZ region, basically, customers. All right, so, but what really brings me here tonight is the final point here, the growing local expertise for Australia and New Zealand. Our team developed a certain expertise, especially with regards to accounting and payroll. And that's basically what I'm going to talk to you guys today. I'm quite excited to show you these new features. So I separated in 3 sections. We have, with the little kangaroo on the left, you have Australia, then you have New Zealand, and on the right side, basically the new features that will be there for the whole region. Let's start with Australian payroll. This is the object of a lot of sleepless nights for us, for the developers, for the consultants that work with me on that particular project. I'm very excited to say that we built the code in Odoo 18 that allows us to apply for compliance with Single Touch Payroll. So this is really something that I'm very excited to talk about today. I'm going to go a little bit more into details, but that means that in this very version, Odoo 18.0, we will be able to be compliant with Single Touch Payroll. Currently, we are working on the API to make this work. I'll give you extra detail later, but this is going to be the object of my demonstration. Next, we also had a full tax revamp in Odoo 18 to make things more clean and more effective. And in addition to that, importers in Australia can now manage their deferred GST scheme and flows within Odoo from end to end. In New Zealand, customers can also manage their payroll by going to the applications and downloading the Employment Hero module that is now also available for New Zealand. Similar to what we had in Australia with ABA batch payments, it's a bit technical, bear with me. Basically, it's a way to import batches to your bank and pay a lot of supplier vendor bills at the same time. We did that for New Zealand now, and it's called EFT batch payments. It's a new module that was released in Odoo 18. And finally, I will spend a little bit of time later to discuss other improvements for the region. So let's dig into Australian payroll. Last time, November 2023, when I did this presentation, I actually presented the first module for you guys. It was the stepping stone to what we managed to accomplish today. It was the bare bone, but basically it helped us understand the requirements, the complex requirements for Australian payroll. In 2024, we did not rest. We had 2 very, let's say, fruitful minor release notes, 17.2 and 17.4. Don't take my word for it. Just look at this picture. This is the release notes for Odoo Australia in version 18 only. Payroll is making, let's say, a lot of shadow to other localization at the moment, so we're pretty proud of this. But something that is very important is that for Australia, it does not matter how many features you have about payroll. If you're not compliant, no companies can use it, which brings me to my next point. In July this year, so it's very recent, we actually signed an agreement with a clearinghouse, which is basically a third-party company that manages our compliance with Single Touch Payroll, but also with SuperStream. So what that means is that as soon as our API is developed in Odoo 18.0, I want to precise that again, you will be able, with Odoo, to pay your employees super guarantee directly into their super funds. So being compliant with SuperStream. And 2 months later, in September 2024, we got pre-approved by the Australian Taxation Office, the ATO, to be compliant with Australia, STP. So basically, we had to go through a lot of tests, and we basically built the code in Odoo 18 that allows us to pass all those tests. So that's where we are today. Before I dig into the demo itself, I'd like to talk a little bit about other features briefly, because I won't have the time to showcase everything to you, but we will have a lot of documentation that is pushed on every single topic, and that you guys can follow in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We should have the documentation online. It's already written, but waiting for review. So, as I mentioned, tax revamp and deferred GST. Deferred GST, I believe, is one of the most important accounting features that we released this version. What is it? So certain companies actually are eligible for what we call the Deferred GST scheme, and that allows them to defer the payment or the lodging of their GST in their BAS report to up to the 21st, I believe it is, day 21st of the next month. So what exactly do we have now? We have a new section of the BAS report, as you can see, the 7A. Of course, all the computations have been revamped as well. In order to make that work, you need a new tax that is inactive by default in your database. So that is also something that if you are eligible for the Deferred GST scheme, please go and enable that new tax. And this new tax, once you allocate it to a journal entry in Odoo, it will automatically create all the journal items for your Deferred GST entry to be computed correctly. And of course, that's the last point. Of course, everything is automated at the end of your monthly BAS. When you close your BAS report, the entries are balancing out each other. That's basically for Deferred GST. Happy to answer some questions later if you want more detail. Next, we also revamped taxes. That was a big point of frustration for me since I joined the Australian office. I really hated the way taxes are displayed in Odoo Australia as soon as you create a new database. So we created, let's say, tax, denomination now that makes much more sense. As you can see on the screens, you can see the sales taxes. It's meant to be extremely simple, easily searchable on sales order, purchase orders, and invoices, but also with intelligible codes, so that you see 10% GST, 10% INC tax included in the price. It makes sense. F, free sales. IMP, input takes out. It's meant to be very easily searchable, and it's also aligned with our global Odoo taxonomy for taxes. Okay. We also added an informative description for your own setup, because we've had a lot of customers coming to us and say, I don't understand how to use your taxes. It's too complicated. So we added a little description for you guys, and I think it's a little bit more suitable to what the Australian market expects from us to do. Finally, I'm happy to say that we cover absolutely all cases for BAS now. This is another example for purchase taxes. We have more purchase taxes. But what I'm also quite excited to say, and it's not a big deal for the developers, but for us it's a massive deal, and I think the partners would like that too. We archived the T-bar taxes by default. It was making for much cleaner databases as soon as you create something in Australia, because not a lot of companies use that T-bar report, but they're still there for companies who need to use it. Okay, so New Zealand, we are now compliant with Employment Hero. So basically, you can download that module that you can see on my screen right now, Employment Hero Payroll, and you can simply you have to subscribe to Employment Hero. They have their own pricing. You take the API key, the payroll URL, and business ID of your company inside Employment Hero, and you put it inside of Odoo. That's it. There's no extra cost for this integration. You just pay for Odoo and Employment Hero separately. That allows you to outsource payroll compliance for New Zealand. You can map your accounts, you can map your taxes, and you can map your expense categories. That's new as well for the Employment Hero integration. Finally, for New Zealand, I mentioned earlier the EFT batch transfers. It's basically Odoo creating a new payment method for New Zealand. As you can see on the bottom, you see New Zealand EFT in your bank journals. That allows you, when selected on multiple vendor bills, to create a batch payment, just like in Odoo standard. But from that batch payment, Odoo will download a file that you can upload then to your bank. We support 4 banks, I believe: Westpac, ANZ, ASB, and BNZ. And these banks now accept Odoo's files to be, yes, okay, you want to pay all these 100 vendor bills at once in 2 clicks, you can now do this for New Zealand, just like ABA files in Australia. Okay, and finally, finally, small other improvements. I'm not going to go over this slide a lot, but there is one point though for ANZ that I do want to address, and it is bank synchronization. We've had a lot of requests, and rightfully, to improve the bank sync in Odoo. It works, but not always. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation at times for partners, for customers. I'm very happy to say, so I have 3 good news about this. First of all, we did sign an agreement with Yodlee earlier this year that will allow us to be compliant with open banking standards. So this will happen. The second good news is that as soon as this is released, it will be version independent. So if you have a database in 17, in 18, in 18.1, it will not matter. You will not have to wait until version 19 for this to be released. And third of all, the third big news, and that's, I believe, the way I can reassure a little bit about the efforts that we put into this topic, is that Odoo just created a new team internally on Odoo headquarters to deal with this kind of request. So we're going to be a little faster. I will leave all the other features for the release notes and demonstration and documentation that we'll do with the Australian office moving forward. Okay. So time for the demo. I'm quite excited to show you. You can see the screen. Perfect. All right. Let me just do this. This is a new database in version 18. And as you can see here, I have the payroll application installed. If you want the payroll application, make sure to go to the apps and then write Australia at this moment. This will be automated in the future, but right now you need to download the module called Australia Payroll with Accounting. So this will install not only payroll, but also the links between payroll, accounting, time of expense, and so on and so forth. So make sure to download that one. Let's go to our employee application, right? So I have a few employees here. I'm HR manager of my company, so I made sure to set up my payroll settings accordingly, as myself being the HR manager. We have a bunch of employees already, but what we do want to do is create a new employee that we'll call Marcus Cook. And Marcus Cook is going to be in the sales department as a sales exec. There we go. And we're not sure whether we can trust him yet, so we're going to put it in probation. And I want to make sure that Mohammed Harris is the sales manager here. Want to make sure to add the right setup. In the settings now, you have access to a lot of information about payroll. You have access to personal information, so I can say Marcus is claiming the tax-free threshold. He is a resident. Of course, if you take the non-resident box, then you don't have access to the tax-free threshold, because that's basically an Austrian regulation. So I'm claiming the tax-free threshold. He provided his TFN status here, and declaration, sorry. So I have his tax file number. There will be some validation rule in version 18 as well to verify whether this is an acceptable tax file number. He's working full-time, his income stream type is salary and wages, and the tax treatment category is regular. But Odoo supports a lot of other tax treatment types. This will be in the documentation as well. Marcus actually is claiming a student loan, so I'm going to do that as well. He doesn't claim Medicare variation, and he doesn't have children, etc., etc. So I'm just going to stay very simple here. Very important as well, Marcus Cook is he has a superannuation fund. So I need to add my fund here. I want to make sure that the super fund is here. I have a few ones that are pre-installed, but you can create your own super funds. And his member number is, it's a bit much, like this. And he's member since the 9th of February 2022. All right, let's save that one. Additionally, there are some private information that I need to add here to make sure that I stay compliant with the ATO. The ATO will ask you for a date of birth. It will ask you for private address, etc., etc. So that might be overwhelming. You're like, what field do I need to know in order to stay compliant in Australia? Well, don't worry, Odoo will tell you. We'll try. Say this is going to be in Varsity Lakes Street 9 in Varsity Lakes. And the state is Queensland. for, I think it's that one, I'm not too sure. Let's see, Australia, and he has Marcus Cook at example.com at his private email. And I know, because I'm a good HR manager, I know I need a birth date, which is that day. All right, so now that we're ready for the employee itself, I do need to send him a contract. So I'm going to open the contract here on the top right as a, well, from the employee form. I add Marcus Cook here. He started with us in September 1st, on September 1st. We're following the 38 hours a week schedule. I will add a contract tab, which is full-time, and he's paid weekly, like a lot of people in Australia. So I'm going to pay him 1,250 per week. Okay, a bit more. Yeah. Here we go. And in Australia, I have another set of very interesting information that I can add. For example, here you can see the regular payday is paid weekly, so that's quite important. We pay on Monday. I'm not going to go too much in details. These fields are quite advanced, but you can see we have salary sacrifice options, we have workplace giving options. And Marcus Cook is a smart guy, he's a sales guy, and that's why we hired him, and he managed to negotiate an extra superannuation percentage of 1%, because we really wanted to hire him, and that was his condition for hiring. So I'm going to make sure to click on running here. Allowances, so regular payments, right? You know, Austria has a lot of awards, and we have a lot of allowances and regular payments that need to be allocated to certain types of employees. So if that's the case, you can create what we call salary attachments here, which are recurring payments that will happen on every single payslip. So you can see here, I can click on the tab, and I see a lot of award, transport, cents per kilometer, laundry, etc., etc. There, domestic travel. We have a lot. I think we have about 68 different types of allowances. Of course, I'm not going to mention them here, and we're going to stay very simple. All right. So his contract is now running. What I will do, I'll go to batch payment. Actually, I'm not going to do it the lazy way. I'm going to go to payroll, payslip, batches. From there, I'm going to create 2024 current week. That's my batch. And yeah, perfect. So 1st of October until the... no, actually, I want to do... Remember, we're paid on Monday, so it's going to be the 30th of September until the 6th of October. I'm going to generate the payslip, and as I can see here, I have a lot of employees. If I want to only generate a payslip for the sales department, I can just write sales up, and you can see I'm only seeing the employees for the sales department. But I don't care. I want to do a full selection, so I'm going to have all my employees here and generate their payslip. In a matter of seconds, I have 6 payslips that I can take time to look. So of course, access rights here are very important. So you see 1,155 per week, 1,000 per week, etc., etc. So I'm going to go to Marcus Cook and make sure that everything is correct. Well, he worked for 5 days during this week. He's paid a total of that. I can add other payments if necessary. And salary computations are done according to his contract, to his employment form, to his salary attachments, to everything you can think of. We have about 38 rules, I believe, or 36 rules in Australia to compute everything that you need for your employees. Okay, so everything looks pretty good. I'm going to go back to the draft after the accountant and the payroll officer reviewed everything. I'm going to create the draft entry. And basically what happens is here, we're going to prepare for the submission of our STP file to the ATO. Before I can do it, actually I can do it now. I'm going to do payment later. Because it's very important to submit to the ATO before you pay your employees. It's actually a legal requirement. So make sure not to forget that. And that's why you can't see the pay button here in Odoo either. I'm going to submit to the ATO, and as you can see, I have a new model here, and I have some information that I'm missing. So fear not. You remember I told you earlier, Australia... sorry, drink a bit of water. So remember, I told you earlier that Odoo would tell you if there was some missing information. You see on the top, the STP responsible private phone is missing. So I'm going to go back to the employee. I know I'm the responsible, and I will look into my private information. And indeed, I forgot, silly me, the 1, 2, 3, here we go. So I forgot the private phone. I can try again in our menu called Single Touch Payroll. I see I have my submission ready. I will try to submit to the ATO. Yes, so very important. I want to make sure I know exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to sign and accept and read the terms and conditions before I submit this to the ATO. Sign and submit, and I have an additional validation error. Please, private phone for Marcus Cook is missing. Oh, I did not do that one on purpose at all. I'm going to go back to Marcus. Private information. we go. And go back to my payroll, reporting, and you see here, Single Touch Payroll. I can access it this way as well. Submit to ATO, I have read, and I sign up. I have all the information logged in the shader, very important for compliance. This file, as soon as the API is ready, again, I repeat, this does not send information to the ATO as of yet, but it will in Odoo 18.0 as soon as we finalize the API task that we're fully working on at the moment. So this is what is the next step? The next step is to go back to my badge and to pay, right? So you can see here now there is a payment button. I can click on pay. You can only register payment for posted journal entries. Yes, because Odoo is fully integrated with accounting as well. Payroll and accounting are fully integrated. So it is going to be important for my accountant to review periodically the journal entries so that they can affect the BAS report. W1 section, W2 section, W5 section, very important. So here, I know it's in my salary journal. Salary. Let me see. Salary. Oh, sorry. Salary. Here we go. And I know it's in drafts, unposted. And I see my 6 payslips. And I can open one of them. And you can see here, tax grade is impacted correctly here. W1, W2. I have my wage and salary, superannuation, pay-as-you-go withholding, and of course, according to the different rules, we'll have much more. Here, I know my HR officer is doing things really well as the accountant, and I will confirm all the entries. Confirm now. Here we go. All right. So again, back to the batch payments. Current week, I can now try to pay. And you can see payments related to employees with no bank accounts will be skipped. So of course, I can view the employees that are missing. As you know, I did not add a bank account for Marcus Cook, so I will do it now. Bank account is here. Okay, bank, Commonwealth, send money. This is not a sponsored presentation, by the way, by Commonwealth. Let's make sure it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, we're good. Strip out the cookies. Save. And I have another employee that is missing. It's Chris Networth. Here we go. Just inventing some data. Commonwealth as well. And send money. Save and close. Save it. Here we go. And now I can try again. I will select ABA credit transfer because this will allow me to create a batch payment and pay all my employees at once. I create the payments, and as you can see here, on the top right, I have a new batch payment that has been created. And with the sum of all the net salaries that I need to pay to my employees, okay? So I'm gonna go for the full reconciliation with you guys, and I'm going to accounting, Commonwealth, create a new transaction that fortunately happened today. So current wages, let's stay quite elusive in our description here on purpose to see how smart Odoo is. So I'm going to click on current wages, and here I know I created a batch payment, so I don't need to link all these different accounts together. You see I have a lot of different journal items. I can go to batch payment, and oh, I see payroll payments, current week here, the exact same amount, perfect. I click on it, I open it to make sure I'm paying all my employees, Isella, Chris, Erica, etc., and I validate. And just like that, everything is fully matched. I'm going to go back to the batch payments and see what happens. Oh, not this one, that one. And you can see now the batch payments is full. Oh, yeah, I didn't validate it. That's why in the beginning I need to validate it. But you can see here the journal item entries themselves will not prevent you from doing a matching if you forget one specific step. Because if I go here, if I go to the actual payslips, what is important is that these ones are marked as done. All right? So that's one thing. Finally, and I don't have much time left, so I'm going to accelerate. You might be wondering, what about my superannuation payments, superannuation guarantee? Well, you can go to super contribution here. I can go to Marcus Cook again, and on the top you can see there are smart buttons that help you navigate Odoo Payroll. On the top you can see super contribution, and I am ready, maybe at the end of the quarter, and to be ready for payday super in 2026, we'll have to put this in place here, as you can see here, all the different pay slips that fall under, so the superannuation guarantee and concessional sacrifice and extra annuation payment that needs to be paid to each employee's super fund. That's basically why we have this. So as soon as you're ready, you select your bank journal from which you want the money to be deducted to pay your super funds. You lock this to prepare for the payment, because next payslip will create another guarantee file, and then you register the superannuation payment, right? And if there is any issue, you can always kind of drill down into each of these lines to make sure, okay, what is happening here, okay? So that's it for my demo. I will go back to the slides really quickly because I'm running out of time and I would love to answer a few questions. But first of all, what I showed you is really just the tip. Yeah, it's just the tip, just the surface. We have so much more that I don't have time to explain to you today. I will write it all in a documentation. Actually, it's already been written, but I need approval, and everything will be explained there. And of course, you can contact our support team, you can contact our sales team, you can contact our consultancy team for us to help you understand what we've developed for version 18. So what is next for us? Let me just open the slideshow again. What is next for us? First, payroll compliance, our massive priority. You can see we will focus now on Single Touch Payroll, just the final paperwork with the ATO, finalizing the API, so we're both compliant with SuperStream and Single Touch Payroll. This, as I mentioned, we've already been pre-approved, but that means you cannot use it today. We'll do massive marketing campaign as soon as it's done, and we also use Odoo Payroll internally at odoo.com. And also we will be compliant with standard business reporting, so that's more of a high-level accounting standards, which will help the ATO recommend us for services. So this will happen for Odoo 18.0. And for Odoo 19, we basically have, I'm just going to show this slide, I'm not going to go into every single point, but this is basically what we're going to focus on for Odoo 19. So thank you very much for your attention today. It was a pleasure for me to talk to you. Feel free if we have questions. I know we have 30 seconds, so maybe we can answer one question, just a symbolic question, but of course I will be here later as well to answer some questions. Hello.
Hello, Lionel.
Hello.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions.
I imagine. I'm sorry I had a lot of things to show you guys today.
How much does the AU payroll module cost?
So, I'm just going to look into the eyes of my director here. Is it okay to say at the moment? All right, it's okay. So as long as you're going to have an Odoo Enterprise subscription, you won't have to pay anything else. You just need an Enterprise subscription.
Okay, and one last question. Will Odoo look for other providers for bank synchronization instead of Odoo?
No, not at this point. We are considering some of them. We are, but at this stage we're not really considering because we have an agreement with Yodlee who is working already. Yodlee has listened to us, they understand our concerns, and they showed us they can do the job. So we decided to go forward with Yodlee, and we signed the agreement, and we're going to move forward. So Yodlee currently has issues, so I can understand people's frustration with Yodlee at the moment, but you have to understand that as soon as we're compliant with open banking, these issues will disappear.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'm happy to take questions later as well at the stand.